Your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
It's Tuesday, in case you're wondering. Just kind of get your mind set for the week. Because I think, when you had a day off, if you had the day off yesterday, that it's, sometimes a little confusing as to what day it is. Mm-hmm. So just helpful Heinz here this morning, giving you the word that it's Tuesday when you get out of the old rack.
I don't know who was more confused yesterday, when he was more confused, yesterday or today with Indy, when we didn't get out of bed on Monday at 4 and we did today. Because he got the extra day where we got to sleep in, and then we get used to that, and then we change it again. I got interesting looks the last 2 days from my dog. Like, aren't we going to work? We're not going to work. Okay, I'm going back to bed. And then this morning, what? We're going to work today? Why? I didn't have a good answer.
Do you talk to your dog regularly? Yes.
He doesn't talk back, though.
He does not talk back. He just kind of looks at you.
He has looks.
He's like, man, does this guy ever stop talking?
No. I only talk to him when there's something to say to my dog.
Okay.
We don't hold conversations.
You talk to your dog, Jamie?
Yes.
Yes.
I do. I'm just chuckling at Chuck throwing shade at Jeff. Does this guy ever stop talking?
Well, I know. It's a pot calling the kettle black there.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so Saturday, Texas Tech baseball announced the resignation of Matt Gardner as assistant coach and pitching coach after 12 years on the Texas Tech staff and the past 6 as the Red Raider pitching coach. I'm guessing this was not a complete surprise to you.
No, just the struggles that you had in the pitching department over the last few years. It felt like that was something that, was a possibility of happening. So, yeah, no big shock to me. But,
I guess two things one that bothered me and one that I kind of look at and went, you have to tip your cap to him for a lot of things that took place. One, and I know it's natural sometimes, but man, I hate it when everybody jumps on the old bandwagon and is happy a guy got fired. I mean, that's I say everybody, a number of people that posted on social media and things along those lines, and
yeah,
I just hate that aspect of it.
Yeah, that's a different deal. I don't know of any of that because I don't get on social media.
But it's there, and yeah. I hate that because. It's not like he went out there to try to do a bad job. Did the best that he could with what he had to work with, and you could say, well, he's part of the staff that goes out there and gets these guys, and it's their job to develop them. And then the other side, the flip side of this is, I look at all the recent Major League Baseball players that have come up through the ranks and have come from Texas Tech. And I have to feel like that he and Coach Tadlock and Coach Thomas and others, Ray Hayward, have to get some credit for these guys that have elevated themselves to Major League Baseball, Jamie.
Yeah, no question. And, it was you were able to, when you were able to recruit at a higher level, that was something that you felt like when guys would get here and you felt like, yeah, that guy looks like a future big leaguer. And I think you've also seen some guys come in that, that you've taken from, a couple guys, one from D2, one from D3 that you've seen move on and make it to the big leagues. And so I think Coach Gardner did a great job. I just think you're and I also think over the last few years that it's not just the pitching that's gone down. When you are, unable to recruit at a higher level because of the finances that are involved, it's probably going to stick out a little bit more in pitching than maybe it does hitting. Maybe it's easier to find more hitters than pitchers, all of the above, I think factor in. To me, this feels like a move of, we got to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where things aren't going great, we got to do something different. And it's hard to ignore that your offense was solid this year. It was good. It wasn't extraordinary or anything like that, but it's hard to ignore that you were near the bottom of the Big 12 conference in pitching. And again, I think there's a lot of things that factor into that. We also know that you were, especially early on in the season, really struggled with defense, and that affected pitchers too. But it just feels like this was a move like, hey, we got to do something. We got to make a change here. We got to get going back in the right direction. And the hard part for me is like you go back to like the Georgia Southern, the regional that you were in there, and you go back to the super or the regional that you were in Gainesville against Florida. Your pitching was great in both of those. You didn't advance to super regionals in those 2 years, and those were the 2 years before these last two where you haven't made the postseason. You got there, and your pitching was terrific. It was that you didn't score runs. And so this thought that, it's been the pitching, all the pitching that's held us back. Now, could you say, well, if you pitched better in the regular season, you'd have been playing those regionals at home and had an easier path? Maybe that's fair. That's fair. But at the same time, in those regionals, you pitched it really well. You just didn't hit the higher level of pitching, didn't score runs, and that's why ultimately you got bounced in those two regionals. And so that's why it's hard for me to look at it and go, well, it's just on this guy or whatever. And so I don't know if there'll be more changes. I just know it felt like they're, just as a fan on the outside looking in, it just kind of felt like, hey, we got to do something different. We got to do something different. And I guess this is where they elected to make the change.
Yeah.
And again, the numbers show you were down near the bottom in the Big 12 in pitching this year. There's no way around that. I guess one thing that's hard for me is like I see a guy in Jack Siebert who comes here with decent numbers, but not fantastic numbers, right, at USF, playing in a lower level of Division I baseball. And he comes in here into the Big 12 and is fantastic under Matt Gardner, right? And so it's like, well, clearly he can coach guys up and those kind of things. But then we had guys that were returners for the Red Raiders this year that were in their second and third years and fourth years that didn't take steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
So is that on the pitching coach or is that on the guys? What is it? I mean, it's got to be a combination of both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it's hard because you can see some guys took that step forward and other guys didn't. So clearly he's able to do it with some of them, right?
Yeah. No question.
At some point, these guys have to be better. Not necessarily. It's not the coach isn't out there throwing the pitches for you. That gets into the well. Then you've got to recruit better.
Yeah.
You got to get guys who can get it done.
The Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3 is presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Time for this day in sports history. Today is May the 27th, 2025. Here's Jeff McGuire with this day in sports history.
Going to start in 1933 because the New York Yankees were trailing 11-3 to the Chicago White Sox. They then scored 12 runs in the 8th inning to win 15-11.
Well,
That's a nice rally.
Glad they got around to scoring some runs.
1949, Major League Baseball, Cleveland Indians start 12-17. Owner Bill Veeck arranges something we've done on the Morning Drive when we start badly. A second opening day.
I like it.
With the bunting and everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
The whole kit and caboodle. 1974, Pirates Ken Brent no-hits the Padres until the 9th inning. 1987, New York Yankees knuckleballer Phil Niekro is the third pitcher to make his 700th start. He joined Cy Young and Don Sutton.
I wouldn't have guessed Don Sutton on that deal.
I wouldn't have either.
But
I
now
would have gotten Cy.
Now that you say that, I mean, he pitched a long, long time.
And in 2010, junior right-handed pitcher Chad Bettis made a triumphant return following a 4-game suspension, and Barrett Barnes, the Big 12 Freshman of the Year, blasted 2 home runs to lead Texas Tech to a 4-2 upset of top-ranked Texas in the Big 12 championships. It is National Grape Popsicle Day. It is also National Italian Beef Day. I am a huge fan of one of those.
I'm a huge fan of the grape popsicle. If you were going to give me a popsicle to choose from, grape would be my choice.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Daniel Jones, 28. Jeff Bagwell and Frank Thomas both turned 57 today. So, yes, 2 first basemen played at the same time, both Hall of Famers, both won MVPs in the same year, both have the same birthday.
Who do you respect more? Frank Thomas?
It'd be hard not to, but I got a lot of love for Jeff Bagwell. I mean, phenomenal guy off the field. He's the guy you'd want in your clubhouse. Like, nothing to say bad against Jeff Bagwell at all. But Frank Thomas played for my team.
Nothing?
No roids there for Bagwell?
You know, they let Seelig I avoid the white flag. That was it. That was what it took.
But, I mean, if you're comparing the two, and you are one that believes that Frank Thomas was clean.
And now he's pushing it, so I got to question that now. I mean, the drug he's pushing is a steroid.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. Male enhancement? Yeah. There's steroids involved in that.
I would tell you this. I think Frank Thomas could have extended his career if he had been on steroids. He certainly would have been part of that world championship team.
Well, had he not gotten hurt like in April of that year, he would have been on the championship team.
But my point is, the steroids help you recover faster.
I don't know that the steroids would have helped. I don't remember his injury that year. He was always hurt. I mean, the big hurt, he got it for what he did to baseball, but it really kind of encapsulated his career on injuries. On this day, I could tell you about the sinking of the Bismarck, but there's like 100 really good documentaries on it, so watch one of those. I could also tell you about the opening of the Golden Gate Bridge today.
Oh, wow.
I could, but it's a bridge. They opened it, like drive through.
Yeah, but they let people walk on it, and they were worried about the number of people that were on it at the time.
It's a big bridge. However, 1986 is where we will go, gentlemen. U.S. Patent Office grants a patent to African-American inventor Lonnie Johnson for his toy design simply titled Squirt Gun.
Nice.
A few name changes and additional patents later, Johnson's invention ultimately was renamed the Super Soaker. It would become the best-selling water toy of all time, eventually earning its rightful place in American National Toy Hall of Fame. Johnson's concept for the Super Soaker began by accident in his own basement bathroom in 1982. At the time, Chuck, he was employed as a nuclear engineer at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, working on the Galileo mission to Jupiter. While brainstorming a heat pump that would use pressurized water vapor instead of environmentally hazardous Freon, Johnson hooked up a nozzle to his bathroom sink. It sprang a leak, and water shot across the bathroom in a strong stream. A light bulb went off. His design would make one heck of a water gun. And that is this day in sports history.
All right, it's time for your lucky local winning word. It's brought to you by the Home Zone, making your house a home, and Double T 97.3. All you have to do is go to doubletsportsnetwork.com, and you could be a winner like our last winner last Thursday, Carl. Okay? Carl won $500 from the Home Zone and Double T 97.3. All he did was entered in a word at Double T Sports Network, answered a couple of questions. Your lucky local winning word, this will be a word that puts a smile on people's face because they fell to the Red Raiders on Friday, and the Red Raiders softball team then advanced on to the Women's College World Series that will take place this week in Oklahoma City. And your lucky local winning word here at 651 is Seminoles. Seminoles. S-E-M-I-N-O-L-E-S. Seminoles, as in Florida State Seminoles. We don't need the Florida State. We just need Seminoles. Seminoles is your lucky local winning word. Here at 6:52, all you have to do is go to Double T Sports Network and enter it in. And remember, the more times you enter, the more of a chance you have to win. Here's what Frank Thomas said about the 2017 election of Jeff Bagwell and Yvonne Rodriguez, who he said, it's no secret, used PEDs. He complained in a 2018 interview with the Chicago Sun-Times that his career was stepped on by competitors who used PEDs and was the most hurt of any players in that era.
He can say a lot of things. And Frank was always a big guy. Played tight end at Auburn. There's a reason he was a large individual. But that era, that time, as readily as available as it has become aware of, it's hard for him to believe that he wasn't. I don't think he did, but everybody was using it.
I don't think you can say everybody. And I don't understand why you say it's hard for you to believe he wasn't.
It's just, it was so prevalent everywhere.
I know, but when somebody's that adamant...
may I introduce you to a half a dozen other athletes that have been adamant about things?
Well, I understand that.
Paul Marrow.
Yeah, I understand that, but...
Lance Armstrong, ring a bell?
Yeah.
Took people to court, ruined people's lives because he didn't cheat, but he did.
But I don't look at Biggio and Jeter and think they were users.
Again, if you were to tell me anybody in that time frame was using, I have no argument for you. Everybody had an advantage to use it. Whether it's using it to get bigger, come back from an injury faster.
I mean, you can look at people's body size and tell the guys that were have a good idea of who he was.
Oh, sure.
Frank didn't look like he got bigger. He was always big.
He was always big.
He was always big, yeah.
I don't think Frank Thomas was a user. I've not done any research. I've not stuck a syringe in any of them.
No.
Dr.
But I don't think Frank Thomas was a user.
It might take a swing at me if I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no doubts in my mind that Jeff Bagwell was. No doubts.
6:54 this morning here on the Morning Drive. We will continue to take your thoughts on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Go to the Double T 97.3 mobile app. It is presented by Happy State Bank. You'll hear the Stars and the Oilers, Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals for the NHL tonight at 6:30 on 100.7 The Score. The Rangers and their series, they continue tonight as the Rangers and the Toronto Blue Jays play at 6:30 with balls and strikes just after 7.
The Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3 is presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Good morning with Jamie Lent and Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. Thoughts, comments, Yates Flooring Center chat line like this one, Jamie. I believe 95% Tech has a chance of winning the World Series with the Tech pitchers. The girls have each other's back, so this team will win the World Series. 95%. 1 out of 100.
Why not 97%?
I think he's holding out a little bit of a belief that it's possible that things could go wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's at 95, he might as well be at 97%.
Right. Double T 97.3.
We could ump that up, too, and it would look a lot better. He's already there.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not asking for the full 100.
Yeah.
Although that would be okay, too.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I see what you did there.
Yeah. I love what you did there. It
took a minute for either one of you to catch it.
It did.
Yes.
It did. Took a minute for me to click in there. Yeah. Okay. I love this article every year. I think I just really get into it. I always try to guess which coaches are saying which, but I think they all were pretty camouflaged. This is from Athlon Sports.
Camouflage.
Well, I mean, they did a better job of not using some of their usual buzzwords. Like,
Look, I'm not. Okay, never mind. Go on.
Camouflage, not the right word, maybe? Disguised?
I could have swore you said camouflaged, not camouflaged.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure you did say camel.
Camouflaged? Is that how you say it?
Camouflage.
Oh, camouflaged. Oh, I said camouflaged. Yeah, I did. I think I did say camel.
You did.
I think I did say
They're
camouflage.
not two humps.
Right. Camouflaged. Yeah, you're right. I see the difference there now. You're right.
Do you?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I do. It took a minute.
Is this like you see the difference between coconut and coconuts?
Yeah, just like 95 and 97, degrees, Yeah. Somebody says he definitely said camouflage. Yeah, I did. I'm not going to deny that. I did say camouflage as opposed to camouflage. Maybe they did camouflage. Maybe that's a new word.
Camo.
Anyway, the bottom line, I know.
Flash.
The bottom line is this.
Is that what you're made to look like a camel? I don't know. Is that camouflaged?
Yeah.
So the story.
The story. Okay, so coaches talked candidly, anonymously, in which this particular writer had to have some trust with all these guys or this organization, because usually coaches are pretty guarded about what they say. And in fact, this article is written by someone who camouflaged himself as well, because there's no story written by, so-and-so. So maybe it's a collection from the various schools. All right, so let me read to you what they said about Texas Tech. And I don't think you're going to find a whole lot of disagreement with what opposing coaches said about the Red Raiders. Point number one. They're better pretty much everywhere, obviously, but don't assume you can spend your way to a power conference championship in one cycle. Don't get me wrong. All of us would rather have an NIL collective that's throwing a ton of cash instead of the alternative, but there's a lot of questions here. Okay? Point number two. Will Baron Morton stay healthy? They didn't bite on Nico Lamaleva in the portal, so they believe they've got a high-caliber starter. It's truth there. Can Sheil Wood come in and flip the defense with all that free agency spending? Love that free agency spending, which it is. It is what it is. They were a classic Texas Tech defense last year, and that's not a compliment.
Oh, man, that was harsh.
That might be Mike Gundy right there.
Maybe so. I would guess that Gundy in this is the most candid.
Yeah.
Personality-wise, he seems to be the guy that would be the most honest.
He'd love this.
He'd also be the one that says, "Go ahead and put my name on it. I'm a man. I'm over 40."
Here's the last point. If they're not a double-digit win team this season, it will be considered a failure. It's hard to know if that's fair or if spending like this is a smart long-term strategy. Okay, so point number one there. If they're not a double-digit win team this year, it will be considered a failure. Is that a fact?
You just have to see what it looks like. Mm-hmm. I mean, what does the 9-3 look like? Where does that put you in the Big 12 conference?
Yeah,
that one's hard for me to be so black and white with.
Yeah, I mean,
but I think there's a scenario where I look at 9-3. I don't know that I'm going to say failure, but I'm going to say extreme disappointment. Mm-hmm. There's a scenario that I look at 9-3 and I'm going to say took a big step forward, just not quite good enough yet, and disappointing, but still a good 9-3 was good this year. That's possible.
Yeah, and then. The fact that, the defense, you've spent a ton of money on your defense.
Spent a ton of money on your offense.
You have, yeah.
Spent a ton of money on your kicker/punter.
You have. Yeah.
We probably didn't spend a ton on him.
Your offensive line. But, the point is that you did spend a lot of money on your defensive line and on your corners and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And probably spent some money on bringing in Sheil Wood, too, because other teams were after him as well. Mm-hmm. So, how much do you have to flip the defense to be successful?
Yeah, you would think a good amount because you were pretty bad last year, one of the worst in the country.
Yeah. A couple thoughts here. I love that you actually believe these are real interviews. Yes, and I believe that we walked on the moon too, okay? You probably don't believe that either. It's probably fake or some lower level staffer. No, I don't believe that. Those coaches are saying the same things I've been saying. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's. I didn't have any beef with any of that there for the most part. Again, I'm not black and white on the 10-2. Not a 10-2 season, then it's a failure.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you're 8-4, it's a different story, right?
I can't see a scenario at 8-4 where I'm like, yeah, still took a step forward, still feel good about things.
Yeah, fumble here, interception there.
Again, as I said last week, if we're 8-4, I think I'm questioning. Can we climb the mountain with this staff?
Yeah.
And I don't think that you're going to be 8-4. At 9-3, I feel completely differently. And I know that's just one game, but just that there's a possibility that you look at 9-3 and say, okay, it was still a big step forward. We just weren't quite good enough. If of these two elite teams in the Big 12 that finished ahead of us, if one of them was, or a couple of them had just one loss or whatever.
What's another school you'd like to hear about? Who's another school you'd like to hear about that you're curious about?
Well, I pick any of the title contenders, like a BYU.
Okay, BYU. Because BYU, in another article, is like the number 10 team in the country. All right, BYU. This is a physical defense that gives you real problems. I think they're successful because they a development culture, and that culture is contact and aggression. Their style runs counter to the offensive mentality of the league really well, and they embrace contact. It's a hard place to play when you're on the road. They could have played in and won the championship last year. I think they'll be right back there in the hunt with Jake Ratzlaff. And that's now if he can survive his legal problems. If he can take that next step and refine the decision-making, they're going to be really hard to beat. If there's a weakness, it might be their offensive line. Picking up all the Utah... Go ahead.
Can I just say this? Isn't it interesting how other coaches, and this may just be one coach, speak so glowingly, all positive things about BYU? There was really nothing said positive about Texas Tech.
No, there wasn't.
Which just goes to show, I think there are a lot of coaches in this conference that are probably a little bit bent out of shape about the way that we've gone about it with the spending of money.
Yeah.
Jealousy is probably a word to use.
Yeah. The one last thing is I think they're a legit power in this league.
Your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Jamie's question of the day on Double T 97.3 is brought to you by Connecticut of West Texas.
Okay, so we were talking Red Raider football today, which sounds like a fun subject, so we're going to stick with that one.
Okay.
Anxious for the season to get here. Mm-hmm. Can you believe it's less than 100 days?
Is that right? That's where we are, okay.
I think I heard this morning that it's 100 days to the start of the NFL season.
Okay.
So we're probably closer to like 93 or 94 or something, 95 to start a college football season.
Wow. Because August 31st, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the date. August 30th, actually.
30th.
August 30th.
Okay, so less than 100 days. That's exciting.
Yeah.
You got 100 fingers over there? I see you counting on your fingers.
Well, I was thinking about June 30th, July 31st, that's 61, 90, 91. So then we have, today's the 27th, so 28, 29, 30, 31, 95 days. 95. We'll be sitting over at the stadium. Getting ready for Arkansas Pine Bluff. Woo!
Oh, man.
I think I could quarterback that team.
Arkansas Pine Bluff?
No, Texas Tech against Arkansas Pine Bluff.
I hope we run it a lot. I hope we run it a lot.
I could hand the ball off. I think I could do that.
Did you say that last year for the ACU game?
I think I probably did. Yeah. I wasn't worried about it. That was a mistake.
That wasn't the one you were worried about all season long?
No, in the offseason, I wasn't worried about Abilene Christian. No, I was not.
That was North Texas, Jeff.
Oh, North Texas. Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
North Texas.
I stand correct.
He was frustrated or worried about.
I was worried about North Texas, yeah.
Okay, here's my question for you guys today. Speaking of worried, you can't answer Baron Morton or his health.
Okay.
What is the one thing or the thing that you were the most nervous about? The biggest question mark that you have heading into this football season?
Well, the biggest question mark. Man, can we hit a clutch field goal? Can we hit a clutch field goal?
Okay.
I mean, can we? And when I say clutch, I'm just going to say from the 35-yard line in. Because I think 40 and beyond, while in the NFL, it's almost becoming routine for a guy to hit a 60-yard field goal or certainly something from 50 in. I still think in the college game, just kind of based on how it all is, 40 plus is still an achievement. But you've got to hit 30 in, 35 in, and I don't know if we can do that right now. I would not stake my life on it.
Okay, well, good. We want you around.
Taking this question in a completely different direction, not a specific position group or anything else, but are you going to show up against Oregon State? I know it's at home. I know you've played better at home than you have on the road. You have not fared well against teams with a pulse in non-conference play.
Okay.
And that is the first team you are playing with a pulse.
No.
What about the teams that don't have a pulse? Because you seem to have played...
I'm trying to think the positive, that we're going to handle the teams without a pulse with the roster improvements, but you have not done well with the teams that have a pulse. Try to think positive.
Which team do you think we've played recently that doesn't have a pulse? That you didn't think have a pulse in football?
That's a good question.
Because even North Texas was an explosive offensive team.
Yeah, and they came in here with a lot of reasons to win, right? In addition to the usual. And same thing with Abilene Christian.
Abilene Christian showed to be a good football team at their level last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like there hasn't been that many gimmies of late. Feels like Kent State.
Kent State, man.
Is that, right? Yeah. Okay, so for me, I just think in this era of college sports, I think we take for granted how easy it is to just mesh together a roster that's not full of guys that have been here for 2, 3, 4 years. And you're not bringing in guys to play, to be role players for you. I mean, and they're going to sit behind the guys that have been here for 2 years, and they're going to learn how it is to be a Red Raider. You're bringing in guys to be the lead dogs. And you're bringing in a bunch of those guys. So how does that all mesh together? We've talked so much about how difficult it is to mesh together an offensive line. Apparently that's the thing that takes so much time to get the chemistry, right? And so how do those guys along the offensive line that are, again, that have not played together for 3 or 4 years to get to this point, we all expect the offensive line to be better, but, man, they're just learning each other's names.
Right.
I know most of them were here in the spring, but...
Hello, my name is on their shoulder pads.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe they'll put numbers on their jerseys so they can recognize the numbers.
Maybe so.
Or maybe.
Last name's on the back, but...
Okay. So I just think it's not that easy. And so I think that's a challenge for coaches nowadays. And when you've brought in so many guys in so many key roles, again, you're going to... Hey, you're here. Now go lead us as the, rush end. Hey, you're here. Now go lead us as our lead defensive lineman. Hey, you're here. Now go take over the guard role on offense. I mean, I just don't think that's that easy. And so I think that's a challenge for coaches. I think that'll be a challenge for Coach McGuire. So I just worry about, again, guys that haven't been in the foxhole together for 3 years, all coming together and, playing as one little dream team, right?
Yeah, that's why your leadership core has to has to lead. Your quarterback
Now
or your defensive,
Yeah.
your linebackers are.
The good thing is you have those on both offense and defense, right? You've got those great leadership guys that have been in the system for 2, 3, 4 years. And so that's where those guys are really, really important.
Yeah. By the way, just you probably know this, but like if you're wearing a name tag, you want to make sure that you wear it on your right side, not on your left side. So that because when you look at somebody when you're shaking hands, you look at their right shoulder as opposed to their left shoulder.
Do you?
Okay. Well, a lot of people put it on the left side, but that way when your eyes are looking, you're not looking to see, oh, that's Bob. You can just look right at him and say, oh, that's Jamie, even though if they don't know your name.
Okay.
I'm just another Heinz helpful hint.
You should just always put Slim Shady on it.
Yeah.
You like that? You like that? That could be potentially sponsored. Heinz helpful hints. Brought to you by me.
This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
We'll hear Ranger baseball tonight. They take on the Toronto Blue Jays again. 6:30, the broadcast time. About 7:05 first pitch. Rangers lost last night, or yesterday afternoon, 2-1. Gosh. Told Jamie and Jeff earlier, I looked at this last night, because I'm like, God, they've played a lot of one-run games. They played 19 of their 55, which is 35% of their games have been one-run decision games. 4-3, 5-4, 2-1, 1-0. You know the drill. Rangers,
That means 65% were decided by more than one run.
Yeah, but I got to think that 35 is among the highest in big league baseball.
Okay. I'm not doing the math on everybody's schedule, so I'll trust you.
I bet so.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty high number. And man, the thing that's frustrating is if your offense was anything, had a little bit of a pulse, man, just think what your record would be.
Yeah, it'd be really good.
It'd be really good. Yeah, I mean, even if you just flip those one-run games around, you went from 8-11 to 11-8, you'd be at least 500, or even better. Because given the pitching that you've gotten, you should be better. But you've also run into some pretty good pitching too. I guess you could say that too, right? Mm-hmm. You know, yeah. I guess that's fair to say, right?
It's fair, but you're also in offense that hasn't been great.
No. I mean, you've changed hitting coaches, and that doesn't appear to be a big change so far.
Okay, the Stars will play 2 games.
At any rate,
wow, that was like a ventriloquist.
I was.
You didn't even see my mouth moving, did you?
You didn't know, huh? Yeah. It was fantastic. I wanted to get your take on this, and I hate bringing it up because the Red Raiders aren't involved, but the Big 12 Conference had a, quote, record 8 teams selected to the NCAA baseball tournament. Granted, 2 of them are pretty new to your conference, in Arizona and Arizona State, and Cincinnati as well. So 3 that are relatively new. But were you surprised at anybody that made it? So Arizona State, Cincinnati, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, TCU, and West Virginia are the 8.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was shocked with any of them. I mean, I guess I would have, worried a little bit about Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, teams like that. But I was glad to see that ultimately the conference got 8 in.
Yeah, I guess the late run by Oklahoma State is what did it for them. They got
and they played a really tough non-conference schedule too. So even though their Big 12 schedule wasn't great, they really, like the Red Raiders, played a really tough non-conference schedule. So that probably helped them a lot too. And
then, it's like you said, Cincinnati, they went 32-24, and then K-State, they went 31-24. They were somebody that you thought had to maybe do a little work in the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah, and was not playing their best baseball towards the end. So that was the one maybe that another one that maybe felt like was definitely in danger.
So is there a lesson to be learned here? I guess on one hand, the Big 12 made the right call in having a single elimination tournament, right?
I don't know. I don't feel like it hurt you or helped you.
Right. No, that's and that's kind of my point, is that there wasn't anything really to gain because you got 8, because nobody else was going to get in unless they won the postseason tournament. Correct?
Yeah, that's fair.
Of the remaining,
I mean, you were the 9th
4
seed, so
yeah. And then does it tell you anything about what your non-conference schedule should be, or did that really even matter at the end of the day because of how you played in Big 12 play?
Well, I mean, I think it helped Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm. And having a
even
tough,
though they were middle of the pack in the conference.
Yeah. Okay. Which of these teams do you think will go the furthest?
Oh, man, Kansas, Arizona are the teams that I think are the most talented. So I wouldn't be shocked if either one of those teams did. Arizona State, I think, is in a winnable regional, and I think they're pretty talented too. So any of those 3 teams wouldn't surprise me. Oklahoma State keeps playing like they have been playing. That wouldn't shock me also.
Oklahoma State will play Duke. They're a team that finished 37-19. They're in the Athens, Georgia regional. It will also consist of the 7 seed Georgia and Binghamton. Binghamton. And then for TCU, they have to go up against Southern Cal, which they're the host team, and then Oregon State and St. Mary's of California is also there. West Virginia will face Kentucky, and then Clemson and USC Upstate are also in that Clemson regional. I guess on paper that looks to be pretty favorable for West Virginia.
Okay.
Without knowing anything. Mm-hmm. Just feel like, they can beat those guys. Are you rooting for anybody? Like anybody like a team that you respect or like or anything like that?
Well, there's definitely teams that I respect that I don't root for. Mm-hmm. I mean, for example, I respect the TCU baseball program. I'm surely not going to root for TCU anything ever, pretty much. Mm-hmm. I guess I guess I just would say the schools that I don't feel like the rivalry with, like the Arizona schools or Kansas State or whatever.
Okay, that you don't feel like this is forever school. Okay. Were you surprised that the Big 12 didn't get to host any regionals?
No, didn't think they really had earned it.
And the school that might have been closest to it might have been TCU?
Or West Virginia, probably.
Yeah. But it seemed like the West Virginia non-conference schedule probably kind of hurt them too, didn't it?
It's crazy that their record is so good, yet they're not a host.
And the fact that they really, they won the Big 12 regular season, but they didn't have to play all the tough teams.
Right.
So,
which is, that wasn't something they chose. That was just bad.
Just the way that the schedule worked out. Yeah. Just the way the schedule worked out. Okay. So 8:22 this morning here. We've talked about Matt Gardner resigning as the Texas Tech pitching coach, and now the hunt is on for a new pitching coach. So it'll be interesting to see because sometimes when these coaches get hired, they bring someone with them. Although we haven't necessarily seen that with the Lady Raider additions yet, that I can pinpoint maybe exact to. There might be one player that you could pinpoint that to. But that's usually it seems like that happens in basketball a lot. I don't know about baseball because we really haven't seen any changes because we've had the same guys, with Matt Gardner and J. Bob Thomas and Ray Hayward and even Eric Gutierrez, who was a volunteer coach for years after he ended up playing and, then got the ops position and now is an assistant coach.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because Coach Tadlock has not in his past varied off the Tadlock tree, so to speak, very much. Mm-hmm. He wants to work with guys that he knows and trusts and has previous experience with for the most part, and kind of believe the same thing that he believes. So do you find somebody that's in that kind of tree, so to speak, or do you go outside and pick somebody that maybe has a differing view on things and that has done things differently and could add something to the program, to the staff because of that, because they've done things differently or coached underneath somebody else. So it'll be interesting to see which way they go in as far as this hire goes.
And then my other thought is there a former Red Raider pitcher out there that is climbing his way through the ranks?
Okay, well, that would be a guy that Tadlock has worked with before.
Right. Yeah, I just didn't know if there was anybody specific.
Yeah.
That comes off to the top of your head. No. Okay. Somebody wants to know how many teams go to the College World Series. 64, and Big 12 got 8 of that number. And again, that ties the Big 12 record for the number of teams going.
This has been the Morning Drive Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.